You want to check if an actor is on screen in Unreal Engine. Well, there's actually a couple of things to take into consideration to decide what that means in the first place and how you code doing that check. The first and foremost easiest way to do this is Unreal has a built-in function to see whether or not an actor is currently being rendered. So let's make a quick actor here to show that off with. Let's call that BP is on screen. That functionality though has its limits and its downside. So we're going to go over 3 different ways that we can check that for actors in today's video. Let's start by adding a simple cube here so that we have something to look at. And then we go into the event graph. In event tick, I'm just going to add in a print string, and we're going to be printing whether or not this thing is on screen. First and most simple, again, is just using the was recently rendered. You can do this per actor or even per component, as you might have seen there. So was recently rendered. We also can check that per component. So you get fairly detailed information on your actor if you need it. This is a tolerance that tells you how long ago you're looking for. So at default, that's 0.2. So this will only start saying false 0.2 seconds after it is no longer on screen. That's the first downside of this method. It is not particularly instant. You can set this to 0.01, but since it's using the renderer, there's still going to be a little bit of delay to it, so it's not very instant. And if this tolerance is a number under your frame rate, it also kind of gets iffy, because it's going to be checking was I rendered within the last 100th of a second, but if you only are doing 60 FPS, that's always going to be no. So as you can see here, this is true. But now if I set this back to 0.01, I think I'm running at about like 60 to 90 frames per second or something like that. It's going to say false because it technically is checking for a frame that doesn't exist. It's checking for a time in between frames, so it's false. It's a little iffy with that. So you can only really do this on a certain like refresh rate, which isn't ideal. On top of that, we also don't include any occlusion here. So clearly it's not currently visible, but since it's only using the first run culling, it's only really checking, hey, is the player looking in the direction of this? It's not actually using any culling for when it's behind other objects. The upside of this, though, is that it uses the entire mesh. So even if I'm not looking at the origin position of this, as long as even a bit of the mesh is on screen, it's going to say that it's currently being rendered. Then when I move off of it, and then I need to move a little bit more than just off of the mesh, then it changes to false. And one last potential downside is if you're doing this on an actor that you only want to just be a point in space, you don't want to use a mesh for this to render or anything, it's also not going to work because this requires the object to be rendered. So even if I'm looking straight at the location, since nothing is being rendered, it's always going to return false. So those are some of the shortcomings with this method. In 99% of cases, this is probably enough and all that you need. But we're going to go over 2 more methods right now. One that is going to be more accurate because it's going to be based on line traces, so it does occlusion. And the other one is going to work without any meshes at all. It's just going to be working off a point in space. So let's get started with that point in space one, because we just deleted the cube, so might as well. We're going to make a function for that, and we'll call that isLocation on screen. This also isn't going to have the occlusion culling. This is mostly a non-render based replacement for the isRecentlyRendered function that we just saw. So let's make a output for that and call that isOnScreen. And what we're going to do here is we'll get the player controller, and from the player controller we're going to project world to screen space. So we get the world position of this actor, get actor location, and then it's going to project that to screen position. The way that that works is it's going to give you a exact pixel location of where this thing is on your screen. So now we can see that I'm not actually running this, so that makes sense. If we run this function itself, you can see that it's going to be printing out the exact pixel location of that actor on my screen. But that doesn't really help us, because what if we were playing this on a different sized screen, right? So what we need this to be is we need this to be a 0 to 1 value instead. Luckily, the player controller also has a get viewport size, and we can just divide those by each other and we should be good to go. So let's split this structure pin, and then we just divide this X by the viewport size X, and then we divide this Y by the viewport size Y. And now we've made that value of the pixel positions into a 0 to 1 value. So now we just need to check, hey, is this world position in the 0 to 1 range for both the X and the Y? So we check the X position, whether or not it is greater than 0 and less than 1. And we do the same with the Y, greater than 0 and less than 1. If we put all that into a AND boolean, this will not only output a value of true, so if it is greater than 0 in both X and Y and less than 1 in both X and Y, meaning that it is, in fact, on screen. So let's connect this up. You could even turn this into a pure function if you wanted to. So let's do that. And then we have this is location on screen. Let's print that out and see what happens. So now we're looking at that location. The moment we are not looking at the location, it starts saying false. And then when we go all the way back around, when we have it on screen again, it says true. And obviously this also works in the up and the down directions. So this lets you just check for a singular point in space. In reality, it probably makes sense to do this as a blueprint function library and make the position just a world position input, so that you can use it on any actor at any time. We're going to just maintain this as all happening on this one example actor though. Now, the last thing that I want to do is probably the most complicated, but it's also the most accurate. We're going to add in the cube again, because we do need an actual mesh for this. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a handful of line traces to this cube to see whether or not multiple points are on screen. And if any of them are on screen, not colluded by anything either, we will return true. Only if we do not reach any of the points that we're checking will we say, well, this thing is just clearly not on screen at the moment. So we make a function for that as well. Is on screen by traces is what I will call that. And that's also going to have an output, obviously, of bool is on screen. So we're going to trace from the player's camera to this object. That's going to be the first thing we do. Then we'll build this out a little bit to use multiple points on our character. But for now, the first thing we do is we get the player controller again, because we need to get its camera position. So get the camera manager, and then we get the camera location. We use that for a line trace by channel. We'll start at the camera location, and then we end at the get actor location, well, just this actor. You can just trace on visibility if you want to. What I like to do is to go into my project settings and look for trace. So we make a new trace channel here. I'll name that something like occlusion. It's probably misspelled, but I don't care. Default response will be blocking, because everything is going to be blocking this. The reason that I'm doing this is now we have a separate channel for that. Save everything and refresh the node so that we can actually choose occlusion. And for the most part, a lot of objects you'll want to respond the normal way to the visibility channel. But if you have, for instance, a glass window, you might want that to be blocking on visibility, but you also want this to ignore it, the occlusion channel. So that's why we make a separate channel for it, just for flexibility's sake. Now, two things to keep in mind is that we don't want to accidentally look at our player as part of what could be occluding, because especially in a first-person type of game, your camera location is going to be inside your player. So we want the actors to ignore to include our player. So we can just get the player pawn and add that in there. Now, the ignore self, we want to turn off, because this object itself, this one over here, is the one that's trying to line cast toward its own location. So usually line casts, you often want to ignore the actor that's causing the cast. In this case, that's actually what we're looking for. So we want to turn off ignoring self. Then we can break the out hit, and we can just see, hey, is the line cast the actor that we hit, the hit actor, is that equal to a reference to self, which you can just get by typing this. And that's the most basic version of the line trace. Now, this is still line tracing to the origin position of this actor. So we're going to have a bit of an issue still going on. Let me actually put in the is on screen by traces just to show you. It's not exactly ideal, but it will be better. So right now you can see we're tracing to it, and when we walk away from it, it doesn't hit the center of this actor anymore, and it's as false. But we still can see part of this actor, so it shouldn't be saying false. It should still be saying true until we mostly can't see it anymore. And that's because, again, it's tracing to the origin position of that actor. And the floor is getting in between that right now already. So what we do instead is we go back in here and we'll add some sockets onto this cube, and we're going to be tracing to all of those sockets. Now, if you have a skeletal mesh, I believe that also means that you're going to be tracing to every single bone on that mesh. So maybe you want to only trace to sockets of certain names or whatever. You can modify this to however you see fits. But I'm just going to add 5 sockets to this. And I'm going to set those to be slightly inside of this mesh. So I know that this is a 100 by 100 cube. So I'm going to set this one to 40 by 40 by 40. So that it's just slightly inside of the corner here. You could even do this like 45. Just don't set it to exactly 50 because the line trace will actually like just skid by the corner there, which obviously you don't want. Then we set this to 45 minus 45, 45. We set this to minus 45, 45, 45. And we set this one to minus 45, minus 45, and 45. Obviously, if you also want this to work with the bottom, you add in 4 more. And you trace to those 4 as well. I'm just going to keep it with this because I mostly care about the top of the cube for the time being. But if you're going to be looking from a different perspective, you care about the bottom too, you can add as many of these sockets as you really care about. And obviously socket 3 here is just going to be at the center position because I'm still going to be tracing toward that as well. So now that we have that, we can just get our cube and we can get socket names. So get all socket names gets you an array of names for every socket. And then we for each loop over that array. And then it's simple. Instead of using this get actor location, what we do is we, again, coming off with the mesh, we get a socket location, which will get us the world space location of that socket. And we put that into the end instead. Now, for the return value, we're going to do this a little differently as well, because we don't just want to return after the first race we do. What we want to do is we want to check all of these sockets. And whenever we find even one that successfully hit something, then we want to return true. If we go over all the sockets and we didn't hit any of them, then we want to return false. The return node also stops doing the loop when we find anything. So what we do is we do a branch instead. And only if this branch is true, do we return just true. Then at the end of the for each loop on the completed pin, if we ever reach the end of the for each loop, means that we've checked all the sockets and we didn't get a hit on any of them. So that means it is not on screen. It finds the first corner in this case, so it only does a line trace to that one. It doesn't do every single line trace every single frame. Only once that corner is like occluded by something will it try to find one of the other corners. You can see we have one of the corners still on screen and it's saying that it's true, it's finding it. Only when we actually have all of the corners not on screen is it saying, well, no, I actually can't find any of the sockets that you're looking for. This is the way more accurate and very responsive way to check if an actor is on screen. It is also more expensive because you are doing at least one line trace, but upwards to a large number of line traces for things that have a lot of sockets or bones. It's not a super good way to do it on a massive scale. And it might require you to go through a bunch of meshes and add sockets in places where you care about it. But it does give you the most fine-grained control, and it is the most accurate way to check if something is on screen, with also taking into account occlusion from other meshes. So there you have it, 3 different options going from super easy, but maybe a little janky at sometimes, to super accurate, but maybe a little bit overkill in some situations. And you can choose which one suits your needs best. Knowing about all 3 and using them in appropriate situations is going to help you out a lot. And a very big thank you to all my Patreons. You can see them on screen right now. If you want to help support the channel or get any of the project files in any of my tutorials, there's a link down below to the Patreon page to support me, or alternatively as a YouTube member. And a huge thank you to my Cave Big Brain tier supporters, which care more for coding than impulse control: Earl, Monsterville Erno, my Cave Student tier supporters, Oiku, and my Cave Digger tier supporters, Mauricio Farias.